Hello Scouts, and welcome to Scouting at Home. This week we commemorate Anzac Day. It is a time to reflect and to remember those who fought and ultimately gave their lives defending our freedom and our country. There are many symbols around Anzac Day, including the Ode to Remembrance, the Last Post, poppies and rosemary, and we'll be working through our activity sheet today to give you a little bit more understanding of those symbols. But we'll also be building ourselves a symbol for you to share with your friends and neighbours, a poppy wreath. So find the attached activity sheet for all the instructions, but stay with us if you'd like to follow through step by step. Good luck, and lest we forget. For this activity we're going to need some paper plates, some kitchen scissors, an egg carton, some paints. We'll need white, red, black and green. We'll need a paintbrush, and we'll need a bucket to wash your brush in as well. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to cut our egg carton up, cutting the lid and the flap at the front here off, and then we're going to cut this into sections, into individual cups. So I've cut down the middle, and now I'm cutting each into pieces. This is where the kitchen scissors are really helpful because they're much stronger than your regular classroom scissors. Now we're going to trim each of the cups to make a little poppy flower shape. So we've got 1, 2, and we're going to cut this into 2 more, so we have 4 petals, and then we're going to trim each of those to make them nice and rounded. Cutting down into the groove makes it much easier. And we'll repeat that for each of our 12 cups. For the next step, we're going to cut ourselves a wreath out of our paper plate. We're going to trim leaf shapes all around the outside edge. To trim the middle out, we're going to start by folding our plate in half and cutting a slot for our scissors to go into. Don't crease the edge as you fold, and that way we've got a little spot where we can start. And again, just like on the outside, we're going to cut leaf shapes. And there we have it. That's my wreath with the leaves around the outside and on the inside. So now it's time to paint. To paint, we're going to need something to protect our surface. I've got an old cardboard box here, but newspaper is also good. We're going to need another paper plate to be our palette, and we're going to start with some green paint. We're also going to need a water basin and a brush. We're going to wet our brush and make sure that our paint is nice and runny. And we're going to paint our wreath all the way around with green paint. And we'll paint front and back. Once you've finished painting your wreath green, leave it to dry, and you might want to put on a second coat to make sure it's a nice, strong, uniform green. and we'll paint the back as well. So here's my wreath all painted with 2 coats, lovely dark green. We're going to put that aside, and now it's time to paint our egg cups. To paint our egg cups, we're going to start with some white paint. We're going to make sure that our brush is nice and clean, and I've got some paper towel just to dry it off. We're going to paint the inside of the petals first, making sure we've got a little bit of water in our paint so it runs well. We don't need to paint the bottom here, just the actual petals. And we're going to paint them white so that the next coat will be red, and will be a much brighter, vibrant red because it's got the white undercoat. Now that I've painted the inside, I can hold it top and bottom and paint the outside of the leaves, making sure that we get that top edge as well, so that's not left cardboard coloured. You will get paint on your fingers, so you're welcome to wear gloves if you prefer, but acrylic paint washes off very easily also. Again, you might need a second coat to make sure that it's a good strong white. Some paints can be a little bit thin and don't leave much colour behind, so it depends on your paint. But since the white is not our top coat, it just needs to be a nice strong white. It doesn't have to be perfect. So there we are. I'll leave that to dry, but I've got another 11 to paint, so I'll get on with that. Now that my white paint is dry, I'm ready to start with my next colour, which will be red. And just like the white paint, we're going to make sure there's a little bit of moisture there so it runs well, and we're going to start painting the inside. Make sure we get those top edges as well while we're at it. And you can see how bright that red is because we've got the white undercoat. Now, because red is our final coat, you might need a second coat of red, again depending on what kind of paint you're using. Some paints have stronger pigment than others. And just like our white, I'm going to hold the middle there so that I can paint the outside without taking any of the red paint off. You don't need to paint the bottom obviously, because we're going to be gluing that to the plate. There we are. Now I've just got another 11 to paint, and then we'll go on to our next step. Our final paint colour is to use some black paint. So I'll put a little black on my palette. We don't need as much, we won't be using too much of the black paint. And all we're going to do is take, again, a little bit of moisture on our brush to make sure our black paint will run well. And we're just going to be dabbing into the middle here. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle. In fact, it's better if it's not, because it'll look more like the centre of our flower if it's a little bit rough. So we're just going to dab in there to turn the middle section black. Make sure that we cover up our layer of white and red paint, and cardboard of course underneath. But there we are. As I say, a little bit rough actually helps to make it look more like a real flower. Let's do the other 11 of those, and then we'll be ready for our final step. For our last step, we're going to glue our poppies to our wreath. And to do that, we're going to use some PVA wood glue, or you can use craft glue or any glue that you happen to have. We're going to put a dab on the bottom of each of our poppies, and we're going to arrange them around the outside. Now, you'll note that I've cut mine so it looks like the leaves are all heading towards the bottom. So I'll start at the bottom here, and we just continue that around the whole wreath. There we are. Now we'll just leave that to dry, and then we're all ready to hang. While my glue's drying, I'm just going to add a little piece of string here, but you could use a piece of ribbon or anything else you've got, just so we can hang that up on our fence or our door. There we have it, our complete egg carton poppy wreath for Anzac Day.